sometimes even with a flintlock and called by some pet feminine name. Once he saw the hominy block that the mountaineers had borrowed from the Indians, and once a hand mill like the one from which the one woman was taken and the other left in biblical days. He struck communities where the medium of exchange was still barter, and he found mountaineers drinking metheglin still as moonshine. Moreover, there were still log rollings, house warmings, corn shuckings, and quilting parties, and sports were the same as in pioneer days: wrestling, racing, jumping, and lifting barrels. Once he saw a cradle of bee gum, and old Judd had in his house a foxhorn made of hickory bark which even June could blow. He ran across old world superstitions, too, and met one seventh son of a seventh son who cured children of rash by blowing into their mouths. And he got June to sing transatlantic songs, after old Judd said one day that she knowed the miserablest song he'd ever heard, meaning the most sorrowful. And thereupon, with quaint simplicity, June put her heels on the rung of her chair, and with her elbows on her knees and her chin on both bent thumbs, sang him the oldest version of Barbara Allen, in a voice that startled Hale by its power and sweetness. She knew lots more song ballets, she said shyly, and the old man had her sing some songs that were rather rude but were as innocent as hymns from her lips. Everywhere he found unlimited hospitality. "Take out, stranger," said the one old fellow, when there was nothing on the table but some bread and a few potatoes. "Have a tater. Take two of 'em. Take damn nigh all of 'em." Moreover, their pride was morbid, and they were very religious. Indeed, they used religion to cloak their deviltry, as honestly as it was ever used in history. He had heard old Judd say once, when he was speaking of the feud, "Well, I've allus laid out my enemies. The Lord's been on my side, and I gets a better Christian every year." Always Hale took some children's book for June when he went to Lonesome Cove, and she rarely failed to know it almost by heart when he went again. She was so intelligent that he began to wonder if, in her case, at least, another of the Honorable Sam's theories might not be true: that the mountaineers were of the same class as the other westward sweeping emigrants of more than a century before, that they had simply lain dormant in the hills, and, a century counting for nothing in the matter of inheritance, that their possibilities were little changed, and that the children of that day would, if given the chance, wipe out the handicap of a century in one generation, and take their place abreast with children of the outside world. The Tollivers were of good blood. They had come from eastern Virginia, and the original Tolliver had been a slave owner. The very name was, undoubtedly, a corruption of Tagliaferro. So, when the Widow Crane began to build a brick house for her boarders that winter, and the foundations of a schoolhouse were laid at the Gap, Hale began to plead with old Judd to allow June to go over to the Gap and go to school, but the old man was firm in refusal. "He couldn't get along without her," he said. "He was afeared he'd lose her, and he reckoned June was a larnin' enough without goin' to school. She was a studyin' them little books of hers so hard." But as his confidence in Hale grew, and as Hale stated his intention to take an option on the old man's coal lands, he could see that Devil Judd, though his answer never varied, was considering the question seriously. Through the winter, then, Hale made occasional trips to Lonesome Cove, and bided his time. Often he met young Dave Tolliver there, but the boy usually left when Hale came, and if Hale was already there, he kept outside the house until the engineer was gone. knowing nothing of the ethics of courtship in the mountains, how, when two men meet at the same girl's house, they makes the gal say which one she likes best and t'other one gets. Hale little dreamed that the first time Dave stalked out of the room he threw his hat in the grass behind the big chimney and executed a war dance on it, cursing the blankety blank furriner within from Dan to Beersheba. Indeed, he never suspected the fierce depths of the boy's jealousy at all, and he would have laughed incredulously if he had been told, time after time, as he climbed the mountain homeward, the boy's black eyes burned from the bushes on him, while his hand twitched at his pistol butt and his lips worked with noiseless threats. For Dave had to keep his heart-burnings to himself, or he would have been laughed at through all the mountains, and not only by his own family but by June's. So he, too, bided his time. In late February, old Buck Phelan and old Dave Tolliver shot each other down in the road, and the Red Fox, who hated both and whom each thought was his friend, dressed the wounds of both with equal care. The temporary lull of peace that Bad Ruth's absence in the West had brought about gave way to a threatening storm then, and then it was that old Judd gave his consent. When the roads got better, June could go to the Gap to school. A month later the old man sent word that he did not want June in the mountains while the trouble was going on, and that Hale could come over for her when he pleased. And Hale sent word back that within 3 days he would meet the father and the little girl at the Big Pine. That last stay at home June passed in a dream. She went through her daily tasks in a dream, and she hardly noticed young Dave when he came in at midday, and Dave, when he heard the news, left in sullen silence. In the afternoon she went down to the mill to tell Uncle Billy and old Hon good-bye, and the three sat in the porch a long time and with few words. Old Hon had been to the Gap once, but there was so much bustle over there made her head ache. Uncle Billy shook his head doubtfully over June's going, and the two old people stood at the gate looking long after the little girl when she went homeward up the road. Before supper June slipped up to her little hiding place at the pool and sat on the old log saying good-bye to the comforting spirit that always brooded for her there. And when she stood on the porch at sunset, a new spirit was coming on the wings of the south wind. Hale felt it as he stepped into the soft night air. He heard it in the piping of frogs, marsh birds, as he always called them. He could almost see it in the flying clouds and the moonlight, and even the bare trees seemed tremulously expectant. An indefinable happiness seemed to pervade the whole earth, and Hale stretched his arms lazily. Over in Lonesome Cove little June felt it more keenly than ever in her life before. She did not want to go to bed that night, and when the others were asleep she slipped out to the porch and sat on the steps, her eyes luminous and her face wistful, looking towards the big pine, which pointed the way towards the far silence into which she was going at last. End of Chapter 11. The Trail of Lonesome Pine. Read by Bologna Times.